Welcome to the Unfiltered Path Podcast, where we explore life's journeys without the constraints of filters. In a world saturated with highlight reels, we dive deep into the true essence of individual experiences, offering our listeners an uncensored glimpse into the triumphs, our struggles, and our transformative moments that define us. Our mission is to provide hope, inspire resilience, and remind you that every path, no matter how windy and rocky, can lead to growth and enlightenment. Join us as we navigate the uncharted territories of truth, and to be moved, to be inspired, and discover that you, my friend, are not alone in this unfiltered journey of life. Hello, everyone. My name is Trinity Baker. I am one of your co-hosts here on the Unfiltered Path Podcast. I am a mindset coach. I take people from that survival mode to thriving, which we should all be in. And I am joined here with my beautiful co-host.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerialist. I'm an aerialist. That's a fancy term for performing suspended in the air. I'm also an educator, so I teach other people to do it as well. And I'm here with my co-host.
Hey, everybody. My name is Graham Duval, owner of Valüd Productions. My company works to produce and implement video marketing strategies proven to make you more successful with your business through video. And I'm super excited today to be joined by our awesome guest.
Hi, my name is Taylor Paige Bork, and I am also a coach and nurse, and my business is Taylor Paige Coaching. And I'm super excited to be here with you guys.
All the way from Florida. Taylor, I feel like that was a very humble introduction. Because you, my friend, so much more than a nurse and a coach. You are an educator. You have been in nurse leadership in many different hospitals and different settings. And so I think we are so blessed to have you here today in this conversation with us.
I'm super excited. And yeah, I mean, I definitely know a lot in nursing. It's my second career. I'm also a mom and a wife, and I do education and coaching for nursing students and educate outside of that in my own private practice. So it's been a lot of great experiences that have gotten me to where I am today.
That's awesome. Taylor, I'm curious. You said that you're a coach and educator and everything. You know, there's so many different coaches and like different ways of like going about things. And everybody's got their own process, and like even something I was talking about the other day is like your process is your product. And I'd be curious to learn a little bit more about exactly like what is that for you?
Yeah, that's great. And so one of the things that I was most interested in and why I wanted to become a coach was because in leadership, when I was in, healthcare administration, I was in it for all the right reasons, right? I was in it for the team. I was in it to motivate and inspire the team, build our retention, do all the things that administrators want to see, right? And so I had a really successful department. And then one day I woke up and I thought to myself, I don't believe the game anymore. I don't believe that administration wants all of these things. And I was literally breaking my back, working all day long, going home, taking a nap to come back, work a 12-hour shift through the night, 5 patients, running the department, charge nurse, just giving. And I felt like administration just didn't care. Like they would have taken everything I would have given. And so coaching kind of came into my world around that time. And it gave me permission to lean into my own values and morals. And that was something that I don't think we do in healthcare very well. Nurses don't lean into what's important for them. And nobody gives them permission because we're constantly taking from them. And so I built a program called Rise and Restore. And that is specifically driven towards, I get chills when I say Rise and Restore. It took me a long time to like name the workshop program. But it's Rise and Restore. So you're rising to the occasion and you're taking back the power and restoring what's important to you and building boundaries of like, no, I can't do that today. Today I have to put myself first and lean into my own morals and values. So that's kind of like what I thrive in doing for not only nurses, but I'm trying to give that to my students right now too. So they go into healthcare with those tools.
Very cool.
Well, better, more preserve nurse care too when their care is priority. And it's true. It's just human nature to take when people are giving. And, it's just what it is. So that type of role in life, caregiving in any form, that's just something that needs to be top of mind. We also used to have a culture where you have to be close to dead to miss work. And then COVID happened and that we have a different mindset, right? But at the center of COVID was nurses. So it's just so highlighted right now. And the center of the workforce itself as separate. And then the center of caregiving is nurses. And I just was so baffled to know that there's abuse that can't even be justified or addressed because patient who's sick and out of their normal state. And that's just mind-blowing to me how long that's gone untalked about and that is their work environment. Oh my God. Like how so many nurses separate work from home is just mind-blowing to me. So I commend what you guys do because we can't have all nurses give up nursing.
It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. And I really like that you highlighted the part about the abuse because it's not talked about. And I think for nurses, like we're fearful to talk about it because there's this HIPAA thing and, we're fearful to share some of those stories out loud in our big voice because we first genuinely care about serving our communities and our population. But the other part is just like, this is part of the job and it's the expectation. And so we feel like we can't have a voice around it. And that's kind of what I'm looking to change. Like, let's have the voice and have the conversations because like you just said, we absolutely need to have nurses for the remainder of our days. It's not going anywhere.
I know when I left the hands-on bedside nursing field, like that was one challenge that I struggled with mentally was I knew how many nurses we need already that we weren't even meeting baseline in our healthcare system. And so then to take myself, and not to make myself look big because I'm just one nurse out of billions, right? But to say, wow, I'm leaving this spot open and these patients uncared for potentially, right? And so what I love that you do with your coaching, Taylor, is that you don't coach away from nursing, that you coach to nursing. So you're working with students before they even get into their nursing careers. You're working with current nurses, seasoned nurses who are like, shit, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I'm pretty friggin' burned out. How do you come out of the burnt out, take your voice back and your self-care back and stay doing what you love to do? You were what I needed 10 years ago. So appreciate that because I think that it makes us much better nurses too. And if you think about, nursing is a huge profession where we need this, but it is everywhere in everything that we do, in every career, every field. We have employees of some sort not taking care of themselves, and it reflects the business. It reflects on the quality of customer service or client service. It reflects on retention. Imagine if you just took everything that you're doing and made it implementable in every career, in every field.
Oh, yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. I think it's a culture shift that nurses are highlighting because they were at the center of it, right? And other professions as well, right? But I think that we're in like a complete culture shift on how we see like what's long hours, just like what's expected. We all shifted, but then we also respect what's at the center of chaos and the basic needs of life. We have a very acute awareness of it.
This has got my brain kind of going a little bit because if we're looking at shifting this perspective into all areas of every career and every field, it really goes down to the fact that you must really understand and know what each person does. And that's kind of like when Graham comes in. She was like, Graham, I think, working with Graham personally in 2 different businesses, I've worked with Graham. He is expert at saying, look, I know you're passionate about what you do, regardless of the field, but I want to be able to offer you a type of growth in your field and in your career that offers you the ability to have the self-care, right? The time freedom, the financial freedom, the passion to do the passion and not get burnt out, regardless of what it is, because I'm sure burnout is real in so many fields.
Right.
About how do you go from so many different types of business? How do you go from knowing exactly like what I did as a self-care expert, then I'm a mindset expert? What do you do when you go from those different fields?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think it comes back to like the initial question that I even briefly touched on when I first asked Taylor is like, your process is your product. Like everybody does everything differently to their own way of doing things. Like you could have two nurse health coaches who do the same thing, like end goal wise, but they're going to be different, and that's the big thing in today's world where like there's a lot of those, not the nurse coaches, I mean, but like businesses that are very similar, doing very similar things, but like how do we stand out from that? And it comes from going deep into identifying, who that ideal client is that you want to work with. What are those strengths that you can lean into that you're talking about? Like, everything that you're touching on, like the values, like defining all these things, and getting them into one location, like a document or, something like that. And then you can use that to, craft marketing material or craft processes or, guide your movement in your business. And when you're very focused on that, it helps cut out some of the noise. And not saying that you're going to go straight to those ideal clients right away, but you focus on those ones and other people will see that, and then they kind of come in and they flood in, and then eventually you start working with your ideal client, like an arrow, cutting your way through that noise, especially in today's world with there being a trust recession, and like all that stuff. So like, yeah, that's how we go about doing it.
I love that. That's really great to consider because, Graham, where are you right now? I don't know. I'm seeing like something behind you.
Yeah. I'm in North Carolina right now, and I think that's part of it is like, when you can do that, and to touching on what you were mentioning, Trinity, where like being able to have those things and really, growing your business, it allows for, different aspects of growth, like the financial freedom, the time freedom, and then like more importantly, I mean, one of the things for me is location freedom, like being able to know that, okay, I traveled down here to North Carolina, but I'm still here on a podcast with you guys. I'm still able to fulfill for my clients. I'm still able to get work done, but I've got this amazing view behind me and, it's still making money, So I think that's on what Danielle was talking about. It's definitely a cultural mind shift that one needs to have to be able to work towards that, because it's not necessarily any longer just like, oh, this is my brick and mortar, like store that I need to go to, like, or like my 9 to 5, my 12-hour shift that I'm like busting ass, excuse my French, for administration, or whatever it is. But like, what can you do to stay true to that inner thing while still for our ideal clients?
Yeah, I absolutely love that.
I do too. So Taylor is a Mainer who is now in Florida. That location freedom was important to her. Danielle came from Florida to Maine. Danielle, I can't remember if you were a Mainer before. You must have been a Mainer.
Oh, yes, yeah. I'm quite a Mainer. had to go to Orlando Circus School and such to build the career and the resume itself, like the experience I teach from, and a lot of it. Well, not so much anymore. I perform so much now in Maine too. The time happened, and so I keep building a traveling concept. I keep building on those shows, those work opportunities, that kind of concept, and I've been being led to Florida again. So what part are you in?
I'm in Fort Myers, which I love. I do love Fort Myers. My brother had moved down here 25 years ago, and he's really my only family. So moving down here was super awesome. Just be connected with them, and Florida is amazing. I love
My
it.
network is in Florida still. So I'm like beneficial in terms of like what I can provide to my community in both sets. Like I could easily refer someone in Florida as much as I could to me in terms of talent and opportunity. But that was kind of one of the beautiful things, right? So if you're training under me and I'm creating relationships that are in Maine and outside of Maine, and I'm nurturing you to essentially do what I'm doing, right? It's a guided kind of process. I'm excited about the idea of having work opportunities for other aerialists in other places because I put in that kind of traction. Me, you know, in Florida, it's normal to have a hotel an aerialist. In Maine, I had to build everything and beg to get the first hotel to let me perform.
Oh, it's so cool.
No, I've achieved so far. I'm just waiting for my phone to start ringing all the time. Like, when is it going to catch on? But in Florida, it's already like that. So it's really kind of connecting the two. I think I can be real fruitful in that. So that's really, thank you for bringing that up, Graham, and, and that concept. I love podcasts because we have attracted a lot of like Texas, Los Angeles, Colorado, Florida a couple times now. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's
It's
that
definitely
building foundation for location freedom that we're talking about. Taylor, I'm curious, like how has that shift been for you of like, you're Maine, you're in Florida, like how's that all?
I mean, for me, it's going great. It's definitely like this is where I was meant to be. But like the beauty, like you guys are talking about in that location and the shift is like, I can enjoy this beautiful place. It's really paradise, like every single day, paradise. But I can also network and help serve my clientele, via Zoom. So to be able to help, a lot of my clients are in Maine, and I have clients that are all over the country. So and nursing is all over the country. So like for me, I can go wherever I want. Eventually we'd like to be seasonal because we kept our house in Maine. And so like to be able to like you're saying, like Maine, Florida, like we can go wherever we want and we can still serve. And that to me is the best part.
What I really done, I think it opens us up because I'm all about ripple and our impact in the world. I think every single one of us here, every single one of us in the world has a calling to be an impact in some way in other people's lives, right? I think that when we talk about location freedom is recreational, right? It's our choice in what we want for ourselves and our families in our life experience. But in my mind, every single state that I can touch in some way, somehow, is like a little seed that gets planted with the impact that I'm making. If I get a client that's in Montana, like that is another seed that I'm planting with someone in Montana or whatever state it is.
Exactly.
And so our ripple, right? So like Graham right now is in North Carolina making a huge ripple in North Carolina. And you were in Dallas like 2 months ago doing the same.
And Trinity, on that same note, like being able to, like, for example, I think you're going somewhere, being able to help people, similar thing where, like, elaborate on that. Like, you got this opportunity. I forget where it is. elaborate on that a little bit more, but on that same concept, you're doing what you're doing here and then you go here, and I'd love to hear a little bit more on that too.
So pumped. I mean, I think it just speaks to, we have absolutely no idea where we're being led ever. Way. Like, just when you think you've got it figured out and you think you know where you're being led, you have no idea. So when I first created my LLC last year, 2023, it was final in May. And literally like that same week, I got invited to speak at a retreat in Denver, Colorado. And so, opportunity of a lifetime. It was like the building blocks, the building stones of my entire business. It gave me so much, and I could speak to it for hours. But it didn't even dawn on me that going back there was even an opportunity. Like, it didn't even dawn on me. So I got this call this week at this message at 9 p.m. one night this week. Hey, will you come back? And I was like, oh my, I didn't even dawn on me that was even a possibility. And so I had touched X amount of lives while I was there a year ago. And now I'm going to be able to go back and touch X amount of lives again. Brand new lives that I'll be connecting with and touching and just really experiencing. Because what it gives us, I think, it is twofold. When you have your own business and you're so focused on your personal growth and being the best in you for others, I think what these opportunities give us is two things. One, the ability to impact. Two, the ability to grow, to strengthen our impact. And so what I got in Colorado last year was a lot of that confidence, building my program, like you said, Graham, building my process, what I do as a coach, really defining who I am, what I bring. And now I'm going to be able to bring everything that I've learned in a year. I've done almost 200 calls since going there last year. So the expertise that I'm going to be able to bring them this year is going to be I reviewed the content that I provided them last year, and I was just like, wow, I was a branding coach. I know so much more. I'm like, wow. And that's why that trauma training came in handy last year. I was invited to do some training with individuals who have a lot of trauma. That's why I needed that for this year. So I love that when we travel and we're given new opportunities, whether it be new connections, new opportunities to work with someone unique that we've never worked with before, travel somewhere we've never been before, it gives us that twofold personally, but then also to strengthen our impact, right, which is incredible.
I bet Taylor, that sounds super similar. When you were talking, Trinity, I was just man, imagine all the nurses that are getting helped with Taylor and the impact because of that training, working with you, and now the patients, their care level just being here, and then 10 times more. Is that a fact? Is that true?
Yeah, totally. There's a book, I think I might have it here. I don't remember the author, but it's called The Patient Comes Second. And, that's not what we're told. The patient comes first, right? The customer comes first, the patient comes first. And yeah, in theory, I understand, but the patient comes second means that we need to be taken care of, because if it's the same thing, you can't pour from an empty cup. This is not a new concept, but it's a concept that we don't lean into. Putting the oxygen mask on you first before you go to help the other person. This is literally what we have to do. And administration is very patient focused, which we should be, but who's focusing on the nurse? And so I wish there was 1,200 of me that I could implant all over the country. I would love to have a nursing convention, where we have all kinds of coaches come in and speak to nurses. And honestly, I've thought about reaching out to administrators and having them send 5 of their nurses once a year to a retreat, where I hold a retreat and I give them resilience tools. But I also focus on if this job does not provide you and feed you based on what your morals and your values are, I'm giving you permission to leave. And I don't know that an administrator would really love that. But that's part of the process. Genuinely, when I did that work, I left my job and I felt the guilt. Like Trinity was saying, I felt that guilt. but geez, like if we're not taking care of ourselves, our patients aren't getting what they deserve. And so, and it leans into the home life. It spills into every aspect. So I really love that book, and it's just a good book in general for like any population.
That's why my clientele is essentially nurses, doctors, caregivers of some kind. Like that is the common thread among all of them. And I really believe, one, my art form is painful. You fail far more than you succeed, but the outcome is beautiful. What is so therapeutic is they already go through that all the time. So they keep coming back. But then I'm giving them an expression that's individual to themselves, which they don't get because you're a caregiver. It's like being a mom. You're the whole, right? Like you're not identified as an individual necessarily, and it's very natural for the human mind to do that. So I think that's why they come to me. I give them that individual expression, that individual self-worth. It's an independent sport. It's a conversation with the body and the mind of the individual. And it attracts nurses because they just have that knit and grit, that keep going, keep trying. But what they get from it is individual expression, something that's just theirs. And I think that's what they lack in their workforce.
Yeah.
So I really believe that's why I compliment them so well. My students that show up every week, literally that's what they do. I have traveling nurses, it's crazy. I have aerialists sprinkled throughout the country at this point because of a doctor and traveling nursing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I would love to come down and do a workshop like that.
That is so cool.
And it's very therapeutic art. So I'm with that little life. We should do that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And tailor that. I mean, they kind of, when you were talking earlier, like kind of based on like what Danielle talks about of like how she's got all those aerialists all over and like, training aerialists to be able to then perform, you build your business to a point where you're training yous all over the world under this like umbrella. And now this same program that you have, just is going to elevate the healthcare system because, you're training all these other people that in your process to now train the nurses, and they're just like all over the place.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, a lot of, and really, I think that there's a fear around for nurses to even ask for help, like to even go through this type of program. I think there's some fear there because we have to look at ourselves, and that's not easy. We all know that, right? Like when you first decided to look at yourself and do some personal development, that wasn't an easy choice, And so I think it's when it comes from administration, if administration said, hey, I want you to go through this program, we're going to pay for it because I value what you bring to this organization, that conversation starts looking different. I always get the chills when I talk about that because we don't get that. And I think they need permission to focus on themselves in that arena. And yeah, it would be so cool. Like do it everywhere.
They are naturally. Yeah. You just got to scoop them because I believe that my business has grown with them as my client because they're seeking it for themselves now. They put themselves first to show up each week for themselves. And then they spread it out. So then they're doing yoga at home. They want a pull-up bar. They're hiking. Then their life starts developing in all these other areas, right? I've seen it. I'm telling you, they're ready. I think it is so much bigger than nurses. I think it's givers. So wherever that is in the world, okay, a firefighter is the caregiver, in my opinion, right?
A mother or a father.
So every human alive. Well, the ones that work in those forces, like we need to make sure that they're. I really think it's a culture shift, and I think it's caregiving roles in general. And I think we've always been the quiet voices, and now we're just uplifting each other, and we're all putting. It's a movement. I'm telling you, it wouldn't be thriving 2 years of business with the same type of client if nurses didn't figure this out on their own. It's like an internal trigger, I believe, is a culture, and we're all reaching and looking for it. So it's just being there when they're looking for it.
Yeah.
I should
I
be
think it's
specific and do like a nursing type of like conference too, because that is my client. I might
yeah.
hey, this is what's
Hit me up. Let's do it together.
Like, let's go.
Danielle, 100%. Because like it goes to like what I was talking about before. Like in marketing, you create all your marketing and your message to that one ideal person. You know what I mean? Like the nurses and all this stuff. And that's all because you talk about what you know and how you connect with them because you're that's who your ideal person is. That doesn't mean that you can't still work with other people. You just create this message for videos or, brochures or whatever that just has a clear message and is going to grab attention. And then some random person who may be a firefighter sees this thing. It's like, oh, wow, this program for nurses that's doing Aerialist. I'd like to try that too, and then like that, you get that.
It reminds me of Brene Brown a lot because Brene had this like specific clientele. And then she was asked to go like teach vulnerability to like people who don't even know what vulnerability means. Right. And so the work is valuable and it can be just catered towards the individual. You just tweak things a little bit. Like when I'm going to speak about it, I'm going to speak about what the nurse feels because I feel that or I've felt that. But if I'm going to go into a different arena where I'm going to speak to somebody else about Rise and Restore and what does that mean to them, like I need to do some research. What, like you're saying, when you research your individual people. But yeah, like it can totally. She's amazing too, Renee. Like I think.
Name dropping in here, and I like never know anyone.
She's amazing.
Danielle, if you haven't listened to Brene Brown at all, she's really good.
You will love Brene Brown, Danielle, specifically, because she is all about being your authentic self and only belonging to you, not to a person or a situation or a profession. I mean, just like being authentically vulnerable in you, no matter what. It is so. She's got like a handful of books. I just finished reading Braving the Wilderness, which I love because wilderness is like, I'm totally thriving in that. Like if I could hike every single day and work outside all day long, I would. And eventually someday that will be my life. But what I love what she says is like, you have to focus on you. Where we are a culture where we focus on, for the love of God, everyone but ourselves. Everyone but ourselves, our spouses, our kids, our grandparents, our parents, our family, our friends, the people on social media, people on the news, TV shows that aren't even freaking to get caught up. And so like, this is like a common thing with the people who come to work with me and they're like, I don't have time. And I'm just like, listen, all you got to do is take all the energy that you are putting elsewhere in the crap that does not serve you. All I need is a fraction of that to transform your life into something that you deserve. It's right there, but we have to, it's our focus, it's our morals. And again, I think I've said this probably 100 times before in podcasts, choose your hard. Which hard are you choosing? That is it.
We're programmed though. You're programmed to look external. We are in a consumer environment. Like, so it's like not only, so that's it. We're all not looking internal anymore as a culture. It's a program. So then we get to this level of awareness, right? And then we have to debunk the program. So just, and you said for the love of God, which I found very interesting because that's what's lacking. Because a lot of us have got outside of ourselves. Like it's insane. But it's unfair because it's a program. So it's like, we have to, when we first meet someone, it's like, what program are they running under? You know?
And like, they don't even know. They don't even know. Like,
yeah, right, exactly.
I feel myself get pulled back in. And like a couple days later, I'm like, shit. I went back to like, what? That loophole, this like, it's like a loop that you get stuck in. And I think that's where the power is in. We get stuck in a loophole and we're always externally finding answers to help with what we're going like this.
It's a level of unconsciousness.
Yeah.
Level of
And
unconsciousness.
programmed under a system that we still have to mingle amongst.
Yeah.
It's insanity. It's so hard to identify and maintain.
It is. It is.
Like this to keep me like aware.
Yeah. You are totally right when you say it's a loophole, but it's much more than just your typical loop. It's called a crazy 8. So think about it, 8 up here on the top circle is where you are thriving. You are looking internally. You are personal development city. You are your true self. That is where you experience joy, happiness, peace, faith, all of those amazing emotions we all want to live in, right? That's like thrival mode up there. And then what happens is in between where the two loops connect, you get down and you go downhill into that, pulling you back into comparison, to lack, to all of those really negative emotions and focus that don't serve you. And so you have the crazy 8 happens to all of us. It will always happen to all of us because crazy 8 is just the way that we live. That is just the ways that we work. But the bottom part of your 8 can be literally 20 seconds, or it can be 20 seconds or 20 years. You choose. And that's where Taylor comes in. That's where Danielle comes in. That's where Graham comes in. That's where I come in, where we teach you how to get out of the crazy 8, because the crazy 8 is in every aspect of our life. If you think about like what Graham does as a video strategist for businesses, there is a crazy 8 in business, right? That down part of your business, like shit, I have no revenue coming in. I've got no leads. I don't know what I'm doing. That's where Graham is like, look, you've got resources. Let's pull you back out up to the top part of that crazy 8 where you're like, I love business. I'm making ripples. And Taylor does the same thing with nurses. She helps nurses that are down in that crazy, like, I want to be a nurse. I love my passion, but I hate where I work and I am burnt out. Danielle helps them their creativity, connect with themselves, turning inwards. Like, I love that. You give them a place for, and I give them a place for mindset, learning that, hey, you can get out of the bottom part of your crazy 8 with the power of your mindset and those tools to help you get out. So the crazy real, and it's going to be there. I think the most common misconception is that to create that true happiness, that we have to get rid of the bottom part of that 8. If the bottom part of that 8, you have to use it to advantage. Like, that's where we learn the most about ourselves is that bottom 8. But you could do that in 20 seconds. It doesn't have to take two years, 10 years.
It's really profound to identify.
Yeah.
And it also makes a lot of sense where some of like higher mentors in terms of business and what we identify as success will talk about like intentionally going on extreme adventures that are painful and uncomfortable, to knowing that in a yearly process that has to happen so they get it out of the way. Or people that like ice dive, like where they literally put their body in ice, they're doing it on purpose to respect the natural law of that happening. And I just love that you pointed out the length of it, because I think that falls out of my mind when it's happening, right? Yeah. Because it's so intense, right? Like, I feel like the last month I had to just look at everything. Also, one thing that you said that I want to say, because, the infinity thing, we've had these conversations. I feel like we all understand this. But one thing that I like that you said was at the cross points, isn't it usually when we have a bunch of choices and we get deja vu and our intuition kicks in and we know we're in the pivot point and we're like, okay, all these roads, which one am I going on?
Yeah,
like sometimes it's the high, because if you assume that you could go back like that with one of the choices. Like, the pit doesn't have to be super deep again; it could be smaller, right? Like, you kill yourself.
I think that has to be honored too. Yeah, like I talk to my students and I'm like, dude, sit in the suck. Sit in the suck. You can sit in the suck. It's cool. If you don't sit in the suck and you constantly are trying to avoid the suck, that's not helping. If you can sit in the suck and actually be like, okay, like, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? This is sucky. This is a shitty situation. I'm going to fail 2 classes and get kicked out of the nursing program. Okay. What are my next choices? Like, sit in the suck. That's where we grow.
I totally
something funny, but that was just so.
Yeah,
Never mind.
These poor students.
And I totally agree with you all. I think it's a great thing to learn from, and I want to challenge our listeners to take this and like recognize, the opportunities that now listening to this, like, okay, how can I grow? How can I make it shorter? And one of the best ways to do that is to tune in next week for our Unfiltered Path podcast so that we can continue talking about these conversations and bringing awareness and making that shift in the mind, because that ripple that we always talk about. So appreciate everybody this morning. It's been super awesome. My name is Graham. You can find me online at valudproductions.com, VALUD productions.com. Same with social media. And yeah, follow Unfiltered Path Podcast. We're on all places where podcasts are. Joined by awesome co-hosts this morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Trinity Baker. And if you liked our conversation today, like Graham said, go back and re-listen to some episodes. We have a great episode with Dr. Locke. She talks about sitting in the suck in a different way. And it really, so I'm your mindset coach, which means I take people from that survival mode, anxiety, depression, overwhelmed, and I bring them to thrival, which is living the life that you live as your authentic, true self. Joined here today with my co-host.
Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm the owner of Aerial Jade. I'm an Aerialist. You can find me on aerialjade.com or Aerial Jade Art, one of the two on every platform. And real quick, last night I did stand up and apparently I forgot my jokes at home. So it's important. I was on the stage about a minute and a half in and the jokes just left my mind.
Oh gosh.
It's absolutely gone. But I still went. I conquered. I even shared a clip and I sat in my failure. Like, if I didn't do, like, I know I have to go through that. So I just wanted to share that. Like, put yourself out there. It's still totally worth it. And I'm here with my beautiful guest.
Hello, everybody. I am Taylor Paige Bork. I am the owner of Taylor Paige Coaching, and I help not only nurses, but mostly nurses live into what their meaning is and to serve their patients the best that they possibly can while also treating themselves the way they deserve to be treated.
Taylor, where
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, yes. They can reach me at taylorpaigecoaching.com. I'm also on social media as taylorpaigern.
Perfect.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening today. And make sure you subscribe where all podcasts are and follow and all that good stuff. And tune in next week for the Unfiltered Path Podcast.